Mr. Eli Roth, give it up.
Thank you.
How do you mix terrible things happening to people in a humorous way?
Well, I think as you know, I certainly find it humorous. I don't know if everybody finds it humorous, depending on how sick you are. But I think that the key is, no matter what, the characters always have to take the situation seriously. Like when that funicular crushes, and you've seen Pollo be so funny and flip and such a dick, the whole thing, and he's like crying. It's really heartbreaking. It's hard to watch. And I think that as long as the characters never make light, I mean, you can make references, but they have to behave the way people would behave in a situation like that. You know, obviously people laugh at funerals. You know, there's people laugh when they're uncomfortable from things. But I think if I don't like it when the filmmakers check out and stop trying and don't take the situation. The situation still has to be very serious. The characters can't ever be aware that there's cameras on them. You know, they can't ever try to be cruel. They have to be the characters without any sort of judgment.
Was there anything in this that was too over the top?
Well, there was a lot of stuff that was too over the top, but it wound up on the cutting room floor.
Like what?
And not just over the top. Like, I mean, there was you could feel there was, you know, even in the earthquake, there was just like a lot of stuff dropping. We had things smashing, and we realized that like if it wasn't new information in the story, then, you know, like we had that earthquake scene, which now it might be 2 minutes, maybe it was at 3 minutes, and we had more destruction. We're like, oh, this will look big. And you can feel people like, yeah, we get it. Like, it's like, okay, now this has happened. Now the bar has fallen. Now the glass is under the girl. Now the guide is running. And so now the guys, you know, okay, we see Gringo, okay, they're okay, but something's falling on them. That every, you know, it's like within an action scene when you sort of check out because there's too many explosions because it's not really new information. It just feels like showing off special effects. There was a lot of that stuff that got cut, but that's just part of the process of editing. There was never a scene that was like so like incredibly gory and you put it in, it was just too ridiculous. You know, and it's interesting, you know, some of the subtle stuff worked, some of the, you know, it's like, you know, the stuff that works is like when Pollo like makes out with Kylie and then wipes it, you know, and that's like him. That's just like Pollo doing that. He's sort of a comic genius, that guy. There was a question right here in the front.
Right here.
Hi.
Hi.
I know that this movie was supposed to be, or it was originally NC-17. Was there anything really gnarly that we didn't get to see in this version that we might possibly get to see on a special features kind of thing?
Pretty much every movie is NC-17 when you first submit it to the ratings board. I was very surprised though, because what they got upset about was the rape scene, yet it was entirely off camera. And I called them and I spoke to them and I'm like, I need some guidance here because like I get when it's hostile and there's like an eye and there's gore and there's guts, but you're telling me to take out a scene because you don't like what happened to the character. That means that we did a good job. It means that it was good writing, good directing, good acting, effective storytelling. And I said to them, I think what upsets you about the scene isn't what you're seeing, it's the way it happened. You're having a character, and they go, yeah, well, we really liked, you know, the character. I'm like, you have a character that you're invested in who kind of betrays the audience and does a thing to save their own ass, and it's painful to watch that character do that, and it's painful to watch what happens because you feel horrible for everybody in that situation, and yet you understand why that character did it. And I said, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo has 11 shots of nudity in a rape. 11. And that is R-rated. We have 0. It is entirely off camera. Then, when you do see a glimpse of it later, a second later, the rapist is chopped up with an axe. So what do you want me to do? And they're like, okay, well, maybe we could just take that the intensity. So we just took out a couple of shots of like building up to it, so it was like less intense. And I go, but don't put me, I will do that, but don't put me in a position of making the movie worse. If you're asking me to create bad acting through editing, then you're punishing the filmmakers for doing an effective job. You're punishing me. You're punishing everyone for working their ass off and doing a really horrible, like that's like the hardest scene. It's like Natasha Yarovenko, who plays that scene, is a Goya Award nominated actress. She's a huge actress in Spain. It's no accident that scene is disturbing. Like Ramon Yao is a huge star. It's like that's the best scene. That's like an intense, that's like the reason she did the movie. So don't punish her for being great in the part. And they're like, yeah, okay, no problem. Just like if you could just, we hear you loud and clear. do what you can without hurting the movie. And people were still coming like, that's the most disturbing scene I've ever seen. I'm like, I know, it's off camera. So clearly you cared about the characters and built it up in your head. I was like, she's like, how can you do that in a movie? I'm like, well, then you have to take it out of what, you're never going to watch Rashomon, which is 3 versions of a rape. You're never going to watch Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. It's like, it's a story point. It's how you tell it. It's like, it's not gratuitous because there's 0 nudity. There's 0 female nudity in the entire film. So I'm not defending. I'm not saying like, I just think it's all in how you handle it. But I think what upset people is the way in which the situation comes about.
Have you gotten bolder with the ratings board, now that you've been involved in so many projects? Have your dealings with them changed at all?
Never. I'm always, we have a very, very respectful relationship because they understand what I do and I understand what they do. And every time we talk, we speak to each other in a very, very respectful way. I'm never like, you can't, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's stupid. It's like, you don't deal with studio people that way. You don't deal with financiers that way. And the thing about the ratings board is I'm the only one who deals with the ratings board of every country in the world. People that make movies with lots of sex generally get by in Europe. They never deal with the German ratings board. I have, and it's f***ing scary because it's one person from Sony that talks to one person and they make one decision. I tried writing letters, nothing. One person in New Zealand decided there wouldn't be the bathtub scene in Hostel 2 because they're politicians that want to get reelected because it's a government position. So who's going to stick up for violence in a movie? They cut it out entirely, and the movie didn't even get released in theaters, and the fans couldn't even watch it unrated. He made it illegal, as they did in Germany, because it's run by politicians. The MPAA is non-government, so you can talk to them like real people. They're not looking for public to reelect them. So I appreciate that, and I tell them this. I'm like, I know like people love to make you guys the bad guys because you're in the unfortunate position, but I'm the only one who's experienced New Zealand and Germany and all these countries, which is politicians that are never going to defend violence, and your movie just gets ripped, and it never gets released unrated. They make it illegal to show how they're protecting their citizens, and the horror fans of those countries just get fucked over, and they have to get a pirated version. So I really appreciate the MPAA. I think they're a great organization. I might disagree with them sometimes, but as you're all sitting here and listening to me, and you kind of, whether you want to leave or not, you're listening to me, they'll listen to me. It's the same thing. We listen to each other. So I think it's a perfect system.
I think we had time for one more question.
Yes, you sir.
Whose balls did you photograph?
Nicolas Lopez. And he got quite the thrill when we had the premiere here. He's like, my balls are the best Chinese. Wow. So thank you. Yeah, so thank you very much, you guys.
Yes.
And I will say this, like, you're literally the first audience to see it. So obviously first impressions are hugely, hugely important on a movie like this. A movie without major stars, made independently. It's totally word of mouth, done for no money on SLR cameras. So if you guys like what we did and support what we're doing, please write a tweet about it. It makes a huge difference. And if you didn't, at least wait till Saturday to tell people it's out.
So go tweet Aftershocks, tell everybody you liked it. You're not endorsing earthquakes also.
Right.
So.
All right, let's give it up for Eli
Thank you,
Roth.
Eli Roth.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you so
Eli.
much.